you can obviously slide this over there like that and just bed it into the compost in the pot, and so that works quite nicely too. Hello, welcome back to Veggie Plot. This week's video we're going to be looking at all sorts of different things actually. I don't know about you, but it's that time of year where there's all these lovely enticing things to plant out and buy at the garden centre, aren't they? I've sort of got over the seed purchasing thing now, so that's in the past, but now they've got all the sort of the bedding plants and the baby vegetables and baby other plants and stuff. Anyway, I was at the garden centre the other day and I couldn't resist some of these. I've not grown them before, and these are, you guessed it, more tomatoes. Now these are different though compared to everything else I grow. These are tumbling toms, and these are for growing in sort of hanging baskets and pots and things like that. But I'm going to be growing them in hanging baskets, and I bought 2 of each type. These are F1 tumbling tigress. Don't know if you can see the picture there. And these are tumbling tom. So just a little cherry tomato. These have got sort of like a stripe to them, and these just little red tomatoes. So I don't expect any amazing flavours out of them, but I am hoping they'll be fun, and they'll just be hanging in hanging baskets here in the polytunnel. So we're going to be doing that today, potting those up into the hanging baskets I've got. I've also got here, this is a Cornichon de Paris, and this was sown on the 7th of the 5th, and I'm taking this down to my mum's in a couple of weeks. Because she likes sort of baby cucumbers and gherkins and things. So taking one of these down to her, so I'm going to be potting that up. I also want to show you some labels which are a bit more sustainable, and I've bought myself some of these slate labels. Don't know if you've seen them before. They're not all that cheap, but I figure they will last a long time. And the thing you might say is, well, how do you write on them? Best thing I've found are these, and you've probably seen them or used them before, but these are uni balls, and they're sort of white fibre tip pens. You just give them a shake, and they've got a big thick fibre tip on the end. You depress them a couple of times, and then you can write on the slate really easily. And this is just sort of one I did earlier. This is one of the melon types I'm growing today. But the great thing about these is that at the end of the season, you just get a damp cloth, and you can give them a wipe, a rub, and it all comes off, and then you can just reuse them again. So I think that's pretty amazing. So that's what I'm going to be using in the polytunnel, and I'll show you around the polytunnel in a minute, because I've had a massive tidy up. It's been a while coming actually. I've been trying to work out what's the best way to organise, and I've set things up slowly, and I'm slowly getting there, I think, to my best setup. I don't know if you remember as well, we did in a video a few weeks ago about Dahlia cuttings. This is the one that had a bit of a tuber attached to it, and as you can see just at the bottom there's some sort of white roots, and I can tell it's got fresh growth on the top, so that one's done fine. And then we also put 4 into a corner, into each corner, didn't we? And I think these have all got new fresh growth coming, so I think these are all rooting too, so that's really good. But I do want to show you the other dahlias. We'll come back to some of that in a minute. These are all of the ones where I split up the tubers and planted them near the surface, so we can see where we need to make cuttings and things. So a bit later on in this video we'll be taking lots of cuttings from these tubers and potting them up so that we can get lots of others, and I'll show you a couple of ways that you can do that to make sure you get loads of extra dahlia cuttings. Now the watermelons, these were originally Red Star, which are an F1, so you shouldn't really plant the seeds that you get from the fruit, but I did, and I've been growing these now for 5 years, so I'm not sure which one of the parents this is, but they are delicious. They're not huge, but they're very sweet. What I've done this year is I've planted them in the ground and cut the bottoms out of these pots, and then slid the pots in around them. Because what I've found in previous years sometimes is that if you water around the roots too much, you can get rot off around the stem. So I've given a little water to water them in, but from now on they'll just be watered around the edge, mainly from the drip lines as it goes. And so I've done the same for these. These are the emirs. I sort of ran out of space, as I've said. So basically the emirs are a bit crowded this year. I don't normally put 4 in a tub, but it's a huge tub. So again, I've cut the bottom out of these pots and hopefully that'll do them some good. And these are Melba, these are another melon. We've got more tomatoes around there, and then we've got aubergines and some butternut squash over there, Hunter F1, which I'm really looking forward to growing in the polytunnel. Never done that before either. And I've got 2 more over here. So yeah, so I'm hoping to grow these up the trellis. You see the sun's come out again now and it's beautiful, but so we are due thunder and lightning today. So yeah, fingers crossed that doesn't happen. Anyway, actually, before we just pot those up, I thought what I'd just show you is about these, cutting the bottoms out of these little pots. So what I'm doing is taking a penknife and making an incision around the base, cutting all the way around, and then wiggling this into the ground around the melon. So what we do is very gently just put it over the leaves, put the leaves around it like that, and then just wiggle. Just not too far, we're not going to take it all the way down. So you just want it to sit proud of the soil surface. And then what we do is we get some water, and I'll just give it a little water to start with, but this will probably be the last time I ever water inside the pot. And then I'm just going to water around the edges. And what that'll do is help prevent rotting off around this roots, because when they're young plants they don't like a lot of water. When they're sort of going into fruit they do need a lot more water, obviously, to swell the fruit and things, and they're a bit tougher then. But if you water them too much when they're young, there's a real high chance of them rotting off. Right, now let's plant these tomatoes. So as I say, I haven't grown these tomatoes before, any sort of tumbling toms. In fact, I've never grown tomatoes in a hanging basket before, so this is all new to me. But basically you don't need to pick out the side shoots of this type of tomato. It's basically like a mini bush. It just does its thing. So I'm going to plant it into this compost here. I'm not going to be using gel crystals. I'm just going to be using the compost. But I have got my eye on, what is it? It's something I saw on Amazon. Here, let me see if I can find it. A sort of a drip feeding system, which is based on gravity fed. So I was thinking that maybe I could try using that. So this is what it is. I don't know if you can see that on the screen. I'll try and do a screenshot on something. But yeah, it's basically bags of water, and they have like a timer on them, and they can be set to drip over a period of, I think, up to 2 to 3 weeks. So that's what I might be trying to water these, you know, for when we go away on holiday and things. But yeah, anyway, let me know if you've ever tried these before. I'd be really interested to know, see how successful they were for you. I know you can get those sort of spikes and things, can't you, which you screw into water bottles or old Coke bottles or whatever, and you just can insert them upside down in, turn a tap on, or they can ooze out of like a ceramic spike. So that might be another thing I might be worth trying. So if you've tried either, do let me know if you've had any success with them, because yeah, it's hard to know what to do, isn't it, when you go away on holiday with all these plants, especially in a greenhouse or polytunnel. So I'm just going to get the compost and just fill up this, I'll twist you down a bit, fill up this hanging basket. Actually, that's what I wanted to show you as well. Liners for hanging baskets. I don't know if you've ever purchased liners. I know you can put sphagnum moss and you can get other liners, but when I got the polytunnel, the plastic came rolled up in this material. It's a bit like a thin carpet, I think, and sort of dark grey. So I cut circles out of it, and you can see like a disc, and that goes into the hanging basket. And enables me to make sure that the compost doesn't go everywhere. Also, it does withhold the water quite well, so I quite like using this stuff. That's the thing, isn't it, with sort of allotments and all that sort of thing. It's always good to try and use what you can and keep the cost down as much as possible. You just have to make sure that the circle disc is sort of centered, and then just fill this up to the top. And then, rather than having lots of different things in here, I'm just going to plant 1 tomato per tub. So this is the tumbling tom. This is like a little red. You can see we've got roots out the bottom. I've soaked these overnight beforehand, because garden centres quite often let their plants dry out, don't they? Anyway, it's got good roots on it. It's a bit pot bound, so just need to loosen that up a little bit. snap them, break them a bit, and then just in the middle, just pop it in the middle. You don't need to bury these deep or anything, just to the same height. And then that's that. So hopefully, I don't know what it says for height. I think it says, yeah, this is them. It can grow to about 30 centimeters high and wide and so on. So I'm hoping what it'll do is it'll fill this pot about so high. I'm gonna have lots of lovely tomatoes. I mean, the trick with all these sort of hanging baskets is food, isn't it? Food and water. So just want to make sure, yeah, they're well fed and well watered. Right, so I've got the hook somewhere, and we'll hook this together, and then we'll go and hang it up down the end of the polytunnel. Right, just take this down here, and then using the big hook end of the hook, we should just be able to hook it through this chain that I've got here. And then that enables it to sort of hang quite loosely. It's just a bit of thick chain which hangs over and is hooked at the top. So there we go, one hanging basket. So I shall keep this quite low for the moment, just so that I can see it, keep an eye on it and water it and things. And then we'll see what watering system we use for keeping these watered and keeping them nice and happy. I shall just get on with the others, got them all lined up here. Yeah, and then get back to you when they're done. Right, where's the watering can? Let's go and just give these a little water in. Right, I'll get some more for the other two. Yeah, this is a very small gherkin, which you know you can use for pickling and things like that. It's a lovely little plant. I'm just going to take the roots out and just show you. It's not too root bound at the moment. It's beginning to go around in circles, but I find it's always good to get them out of the pots and into their sort of final growing spaces sort of as soon as you can, really, when you start seeing that sort of amount of root, because otherwise they do tend to get sort of stuck. That's the Cornichon de Paris. Just going to water that in a moment, and I'll be taking that off to my mum's later on. Right, the other thing that I wanted to look at just before we go, which is doing these Dahlia cuttings. So I'll just grab a tray and we'll see if we can yeah, get some decent cuttings off these. And so I've got several types here, although last year I forgot to put the labels on and the old labels fell off, so I don't actually know what is what. I wanted to show you these. I don't know if I can get in close enough on that camera, but in some places, yeah, maybe you can see on this one, I'm not sure. There's this great big stalk coming off on this one. So what we can do is we can chop that off. We've got other little shoots coming off around it. We can chop that off and put rooting powder on, and we can root this into a pot and get another plant off that. And that's sort of the way I'm going to do a lot of these. Anywhere where I see one or two coming off the tuber, then I'm going to slice them off and pot them up. Right, let's just put that down there for a minute, and I'll bring you a bit closer and we'll cut some of these off. But yeah, you can see all these little shoots coming out of this tuber. So what I want is this really big one here. This is what I'm going to try and propagate. So you can see it's sort of got its own bulbous bit. So if I get in there with a sharp knife and just cut off, if you can see this, cut off some of the tuber with the shoot like that. So we've got this lovely bit of a tuber on the end here, and then we're going to take off a lot of these leaves, because obviously if you have too much leaf on here, then what's going to happen is this cutting is going to lose too much water through transpiration and not really want to grow very well. So I'm going to take off a lot of these lower leaves, because the plant, you know, this cutting won't be able to support all these, it'll just dry out. So take all those, just cut them off, maybe some of these down here too. So a lot of these are going to go into the compost. So we've got a few shoots coming here. You can see in here and there, and we've got this one and this one. So if I leave those, and what we'll do is we'll take these off too. At the top, it's quite drastic, isn't it? So I'm left with this. So then we'll dip this in some rooting hormone powder and then put this into a pot, and then hopefully we'll get a new Dahlia off of this. I pruned another one off as well. And a little trick actually with these is to get yourself a little bowl of water, and as soon as you've made the cuttings, just put them straight into there so that these ends don't dry out. So if you put them in there and just till you're ready to sort of pop them on, that's a good way to help preserve the ends and stop them from drying out. Right, we've got a lovely selection of cuttings here with little heels on. I think that's the right word for them. Some of them are really chunky and got some really good bits on here, and some I've even got roots on, which is a good start. So yeah, I'm going to pot these up. Some of them obviously are very long, so I want to plant these quite deep into the pot. So I've chosen some quite decent sized pots for these. And then also we've got some bottles, old bottle tops. These are just old squash bottles, I think 2-litre bottles. And you can obviously put the cuttings in and then put this over your cuttings to create like a little cloche to keep the moisture in so they don't dehydrate too quickly. And obviously you want to take the lid off because you need the excess heat to and moisture to get out of the thing. So yeah, we'll do some in this little pot and I'll just show you how that works. Right, we've got everything set up here. So I think the first one is what we'll do is we'll use this little pot to start with. Just firm the compost down a little, get rid of any big chunky sticks. Put that in there like that. And then for this little pot I'm going to use the smaller cuttings. You see we've got this little heel on the end. This is going to really help with the plant rooting. So dip it, oh, wet that again. So if it also helps if once this is wet on the end, if you put it into your rooting powder, it helps the rooting powder stick to the end, and then just give it a little tap to knock off the excess, just like that. And then just push this down into the compost around the edge of the pot, if it's just a little pot like this. And then if we just repeat that with the others, again we've got this lovely heel on the end, it's nice and wet. Push that one down in there. I think what we'll do is we'll do about 3, maybe 3 in this one. Got one more here, a bit of heel on the end. Push that down in there. Got quite a bit of leaf on the top there, so I think what we'll do is just nip some of that off, I think, like that. And then what you can do is, if you've got a little bamboo cane or a little stick, something like this, you basically can cut yourself 2 or 3 lengths from here, maybe a couple, should do the trick, and then poke them in down the side here like this. And then if you've got a plastic bag, this is the only one I could find, it's a bit small, then you would put your bag over the top of these. So actually let's just do it. Let's just nip that off there and there. Might be able to use this one in here. Maybe a little more. And then you can just use a plastic bag to put over the top to help keep the moisture in. And what the little canes do is help to keep the bag off the cuttings. So that like that. Now obviously before you put the bag on you want to water it. So I shall take this off, give this a little water in a minute, and then put the bag back on. And then this can sit in a tray, just in here in the polytunnel actually, and they should root happily. Right, so another one you could try is with, say, another smaller pot perhaps. Do the same again. And this is if you haven't got a plastic bag. You can get your cuttings. Again, dip them in the rooting powder. And then sometimes I like to make a little hole first, just because otherwise it rubs all the rooting powder off. So you just got to make sure you firm it in around the cutting. And do this one. Ah, this is a good point actually. This is one which didn't get a heel on it. I don't know if you can see there's no heel on it, so that might not root very well. If it's solid and not hollow, you do stand a chance of it rooting. So I'll give it a go, But sometimes when you cut a stem, they're actually hollow, but this is solid, so it stands more of a chance of rooting, I believe. So I'll just make another hole there, put that one in there, and then last but not least, I'll get one more. This one, that's a good one. Push that in there. Right, and that's that good. Now what you can do, if you haven't got a plastic bag and you've got a bottle, cut the end off your squash bottle, take the lid off, and then you can just slide this over the top like that. And obviously if you sit that on a tray like that, that's also going to help with the transpiration rate and stop the plants from, the cuttings from losing too much moisture too quickly. And finally, the last one is if you take a bigger tray, pot rather, just the same, and then you can put your cuttings in here, probably not too close to the edge. So again, you might get 4 in. Oh, one with a root. Tell you what we'll do is we'll dip that in there, and we will go in quite deep with that one. I think I've got one more with a root here. Yeah, another one. So some rooting powder on that. Probably not so much needed, considering it's already got a root on it, but we'll try it. 2 like that. We got one more. Yeah, one more. Final hole. Put that in there. And then if you don't have a plastic bag, but you do have a bottle, you can obviously slide this over there like that and just bed it into the compost in the pot, and so that works quite nicely too. Okay, right, I'm going to get on with the rest of these and I'll show you them when they're all done. Got all of those cuttings in now. We've got the bottle which goes over the pot and into the compost. That's one way of doing it. Then we'll keep the lid off. We've got a bag over the pot with little sticks, and I've made some little holes in there for ventilation. We've got this enormous water bottle over a bigger pot for bigger cuttings, and then we've got this smaller water bottle again over the actual pot, just for those middle-sized cuttings. So that's how I'm doing them this year. I've got a whole load more to do, but I'm going to do them another time. I'll see you soon. Have a great week. Bye for now.